World of Learning. And I'm very happy to welcome everyone. I'm so glad you guys are all here, and welcome to the Kyrgyzstan TESOL, Maharat and Management, and the Online World of Learning present Design Thinking Education. This is the fourth conference, and today is the first day of 2, and tomorrow also starts just a half hour later. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking, and if you are speaking, please make sure to turn on your microphone. We're very happy to all be here together already. We have many participants who know one another, and it's very exciting for us all to be here. There's already 62 participants here today, which is very exciting. We have 3 great presenters for us today, and we're all looking forward to hearing everybody's presentation. There will be slides that we will share at the end of the conference. If you register by writing your name in the chat. And thank you so much for everyone who has attended and come on time. It's such a pleasure, and it's so exciting to get this international group together. And thank you all so much for attending. I hope we have a wonderful conference, and I'm going to pass the microphone figuratively over to my new friend Chinara, who will introduce the first presenter.
Thank you, dear Miriam. Hello all. Thank you again for organizing this conference. Thanks to the continuous efforts of the Professor Manisha Kau with her wonderful team, Miriam, Barbara, and other colleagues, and of course KG TESOL team, the Design Thinking Conference is going to be traditional. So now let us introduce our first speaker, Dr. Feruza Rashidova. She is the head of NGO Maharat and Management. She becomes the specialist in quality assurance in education, professor of In-Service Training and Retraining Institute of the Republic of Uzbekistan, works for the Ministry of Higher and Secondary Specialized Education and Webster University in Tashkent. She is a chief of Education Council at Tashkent City Mayor as well. Welcome, Feruza Jeke. The floor is given to you.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Thank you very much for organizing such a conference in such a very turbulent situation in the world. We are, as educators, coming together and working together. So if you will allow me to demonstrate my presentation, that would be great.
Yes, it's allowed. You can share.
It's allowed. Thank you. So that will be a little bit more information about like a biographical information, what is CPD and why we do the CPD, where we are now, why Maharat, and so on. Okay, now we will introduce you how I find out Manisha and the world of online education and other colleagues from Kyrgyzstan and US, all over the world. So we do for many years CPD, continuing professional development based on lifelong learning. All these approaches of the UNESCO, and so I'll try to suit to my time framework and go very quickly on my presentation. If you will have in order to leave the time for the questions and answers. So
Do you want me
here
to
we
give
are.
Do you want me to give
Sorry?
you a 10 minutes? Do you want me to give you a 10-minute warning?
Yes, please. That would be very, I would be very pleased
Sure.
if you will do it. So Maharat is now working with many organizations. It become like a non-governmental and non-commercial organization, and partly consortium of many organizations like Design World of Learning, which is leading by Manisha Ho, and then Hikmat Learning Solutions, with whom we started a new project. I will talk about it a little bit later, but later on, more organizations are joining this project. Teachers, foreign languages. TESOL was always our partner organization. And there is a special organization, Senior Expert Service in Germany, which is also welcomed this project in the country because they have a lot of requests with the C1 level young people. And then there is a very good NGO in Uzbekistan. It is working with administration staff of the government, Development Strategy Center, and many universities of Uzbekistan plus Tajikistan, and I hope they will be the students of Kyrgyzstan as well. So why CPD? If you know all that Central Asia and including Uzbekistan as a post-Soviet country from 1991 become independent country, and there was like radical changes has started in this country. It was like a lot of people, we had a lot of specialists, a lot of possibilities to develop the country, but there was like less of meal, and there was a lot of change with money, economics, and there were a lot of migrants as a good specialist started living in the country. Koreans left to Korea, Jewish left to United States or Israel, Tatars left to Tatarstan, and so on. So that was very hard time for us as a young specialist when you are losing your colleagues, you know, on your rise. And then rapid change on economics and cardinal change in labor market. Of course, education mainly based, oriented on theory, and then where the labor market needs the competence. Still now we have this theory-oriented education in the country. And then as a young specialist with a group of the people, we created the organization Yogdu, which means in Uzbek sunrise. We slowly started doing exchange projects for the researchers, between the volunteers, between the students, between the learners, between the teachers. We worked there, we became very huge movement in the country, like volunteers who really wanted to do something on developing the high-level specialists in the country. And since 2008, I became the head of USTI, Teachers of English Association, where we immediately started new project called the Teachers Development Framework. It brings us very good methodology, strong methodology of the learning teaching assessment for the teachers in each level. And we started doing the teacher training. The best first, it was like best teachers who collected in the country in Tashkent and trained them for 1 week. And then we started retraining the others all over the country. So we reached 10,000 teachers per year. Can you imagine? It was like almost teacher training in each district. But it was not enough because we find out that many teachers still was teaching in an old way. And then we initiated a new project like YLDP, Young Leaders Development Project. This year, the 9th graduates of the YLDP is graduated. And hopefully next year we will celebrate together with you 10th year anniversary, and there would be the bigger conference. And Maharat was established on the base of all these initiatives as an independent organization, as a consulting company, which will take care of national and international expertise data. which will allow them to work with the donor organizations, with the other educational organizations in the country. Now we are initiating a new project. It's a A1C1 project, or now we, together with the group, we got the new name called Linguist Skills for developing this CPD project thanks to the languages. As you know, in Uzbekistan, there were like each high-level academic person has to know about 13 languages. So the language of the native language plus neighboring countries plus some European languages. We are going to cover about 20 languages. So we hope that this project will be socio-economic initiative that will be self-sustaining and won't rely on government or donor funding, and will raise the money and inspire experts worldwide to collaborate on. Why? Because everybody have to know their own language. Everybody would like to know some foreign languages. As I told before, that we would like to cover 20 languages, which will be about 8 European languages, which is also very popular in the United States, plus Asian languages, like all our neighboring country languages, plus Korean, Japanese, maybe some Chinese as well. Because we do a lot of, in our country, we have a lot of international projects with this, in this sphere. And of course, we would like to do training for pre-service and in-service teacher training in order to scale up the project itself. And as soon as our candidates will reach the B2C1 level, they also can enroll to the additional courses on their specialties like IT, nursing, accounting, data science, and so on, which is very, very popular, and a lot of requests from other countries. And then in Uzbekistan, because in Uzbekistan, the population of the youth is very high, and employability is very low. So this is one approach to employ these young people with the right specialties as well. It's not only about language teachers, it's about covering, giving the possibility for the youth with the right employability. So, opportunities, what we are trying to cover is to develop both personally, because we are in each level covering 8 key competences, which will help to develop the personality with a very high value, plus professionally on CPD courses. Then incorporation into the skills evaluation of international qualification system, plus CPD for the advancement of successful academic career development. So this is the 3 approaches what we are going to cover through this linguist skills. This is a project how we are providing it. Language courses from A1 to C1, and then CPD for the teachers all the time, which can start from the language level, because a lot of teachers in our country which are requested to have about 15 international certificates, including not only English teachers or the language teachers, plus other teachers of physics, chemists, or mathematics. And they have to have their international certifications. Therefore, we would like to provide them as well the languages, plus teacher training, plus academic development. So in the teacher training, they may have their own that requested international certificate, or do their academic development. Mostly the training will be online, so we can cover globe education. There is a group of IT specialists who are working on the LMS platform, learning management platform. And for those who would like to work with tutors or extra trainings, or during the conferences or workshops, they can be hybrid. And short very short introduction to the methodology and the values. It is about the can-do statements of European framework. So the whole methodology based on that, focused on the students' goals in collaboration with the primary and secondary educators, quality strategists, content experts, and quality assurance specialists, where internally and externally assessment will go on, thanks to these feedbacks, reflections of the students. Once a month, we will have their external assessments, as each course level will consist of 3 months. During these 3 months, they have to cover each level. Plus, online interactive approaches serve as a foundation for all methodologies. So we would like to implement as much online interactive methodologies as we can in that. This is a mission statement which we would like to say worldwide, that we would like to build a highly skilled community, proficiency and variety of languages for the global world. So I would say for the global employability, because today everybody understands that the good specialists are moving around the world, and they can be employed from any place, from anywhere, to anyone, to any organizations, if they are very highly skilled. So we would like to build this kind of community together with you as a very good colleagues of ours. There's a values which we are trying to cover, like transparency, humanity, employability. Why? Because we would like to be very transparent with our framework, with our all stakeholders. Plus, we would like to provide new approach, like education without stress. Why education without stress? Because as a post-Soviet country, many of us had very strong teachers who really wanted us to remember everything word by word, and repeat it word by word. But today, the world of the competence framework says no. They need people who will think about, will have their values, will have their human being, and so on. Therefore, humanity we brought as a value. Plus employability. From each level, each candidate of our project will have their job. So we think that they will get the job because they will be part of our project. They will be part of this community at once. They will find out from any volunteering, and then later on they may find out right experts who will be their mentors, who will lead them to the world of employability. Thank you. I think I'm in time to get the questions. What do you think?
Thank
I'm
you.
very open.
That's wonderful. Good timing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Firuzejike. So, dear colleagues, if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask. Okay, can I ask you one question, Firuzejike?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you are doing really great job by instilling these language skills to people from different areas. And my question is, how do you follow up? How your learners of different languages applying their skills? Do you do some survey if they are able to apply their language skills in their spheres?
Yes, of course. Now we've got already a very good order from Navai. It's another region of the Uzbekistan where the people, almost 1 million people are living there. And almost 30 youth is looking for learning the language. Just And from these numbers, we've got 3,000 who really would like to learn German language. Mostly they are the nurse, and they've got there is in each region, even in each district, they have agencies now which is supported by government. It's there is a report of World Bank where they say that Uzbekistan youth will migrate till 2040 because Uzbekistan is providing, creating new jobs for the youth, but it covers mostly about 200, 300,000, where we have each year about million of the youth who's coming to the world of the labor market. This is a real issue for government to cover SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And now from Germany, they've got the request to have 3,000 nurses in Germany. And they asking us to prepare with the C1 level, 3,000 nurses. So that means that they are ready to pay, and that means that they are ready to work on this framework. We presented this framework to them. And our team is on its own way to working with a senior expert from Germany. It's a nurse teacher who is joining our language teachers to work from A1 till C1 with these students or the candidates. At the same time, we've got another order from the University of Namangan. It's also medical university, but they would like to, if we will teach to the students. So there is a questionnaire where the students are applying to us, and then on the questionnaire, we are asking them of their aims, if they will think that they may apply, they may include their CVs. So from where we can find out. Of course, then we have extra interview with them in order to find out who is who. And in order to organize the group of the learners according to their levels, according to their interests. So there is this whole group of young leaders are working on that now.
That's great then, yeah.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Package. Yeah, Nurzada, welcome.
Yes, please.
Nurzada, you are.
I would love to.
Excuse me. Is your course for all Uzbekistan citizens? Can we join?
No. Nurzada, thank you very much. You are from Kyrgyzstan, right?
Yeah.
Just today, I had the interview with a Tajikistan the teacher from Tajik language, because we are here in Uzbekistan, as you know, we are the border countries with Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and so on. So we are looking for the teacher from Kyrgyzstan as well, who wish to work with us.
Thank
So
you.
if you have the interest to work, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Kyrgyz language is one of our goals to do the same framework, because we know that in Kyrgyzstan there is another languages like Uyghur, right? And there is another information from UNESCO that each year about 50 languages, 56 languages even, they are losing their ability because they are not using anymore as a writing, as a listening, as a speaking, and so on. So by the way, the Uzbek language is also as a theory-based teaching, learning, and assessment. I'm afraid that this might be also in the near future, if we will not turn it into listening, speaking, reading, writing, we may have the same situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have one more question.
Patriotic approaches to raise again Maura Nahar. It was a Maura Nahar before, where these 5 countries were even 6 countries were together, including a little bit China, a little bit Uyghur, and then other countries, where 13 languages were like normal languages for the people to use.
Yeah, right.
We
Thank
have
you.
one more question from.
Re-establish the situation, right? Please, you're welcome.
I don't know. I had a technical question about the platform you're using. Is it your platform? Did you create that platform?
Yes, we are creating new platform, our platform. We have very nice group of expats who studied in different countries, Uzbek people who studied in different countries, got very good skills, and now they are developing. Now, for the beginning, we are using Google platform. It takes time. They have involved some experts from United States and from Korea. They, as a group, IT people are working on that. Do you have other suggestion?
No, for the moment, not. No. I didn't want. Yeah, I just wanted to know. It's good that you create your own. And anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to know.
You're welcome. Why I have mentioned about these whole projects, because we have a lot of data already. A lot of data which didn't use before as a data management. And these IT specialists are working on that as our data. We had experts from different parts of the world. Now we are using this data as to make a worldwide, really, to involve as many teachers all over the world as we can to work on this unique possibility as a framework, because many teachers still have a lot of difficulties to teach high quality in short time, you know, and be really nice teacher. They want to be a nice teacher, but they don't know how to do it. So we are really giving it again. I know the history of the linguistics, you know, as a specialist on CFR. In short introduction, maybe to everyone. So this writing system, or the learning the phonetics and grammar, it was very nice at the beginning of last century when everybody was writing the letter to each other. Even diplomats needed it. Later on, after the Second World War, we came to the listening, speaking, then the reading, writing, because this is more important for the A1, only listening and speaking. But teachers want at once from A1 to teach them alphabet, you know, phonetics and grammar. This is where they are stocking up. And so we would like to help them how to come over in 3 months. Yes,
We have another question. Professor
Yes,
Cohen,
please.
please go ahead.
Yes, I mean, it makes sense to distinguish between, in language learning, between repertoire development and practicing communication. And I always found that even in our modern communicative language classrooms, it is still a major challenge to give students the opportunity to practice communication, communicative interaction.
Yes.
How do you deal with these issues in your courses? Do you use modern technologies? I mean, like what we are doing.
Yes,
here,
of course.
right now.
That's the reason why we are doing it online. So because the youth would like to work on modern technology, and many teachers still sitting in the classes. So this is another approach how we would like to bring the technology, education plus skills as a communication skills in their specialty to the it's an integrated one qualification. Without it, people wouldn't be able to survive as employees. This is a main value why we do it online, why we are trying to make it a global approach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rashidova. It's so wonderful that you were able to join us today and tell us about your interesting program. So glad everyone is here. We have 89 participants now, so people are still trickling in. Fantastic. Again, my name is Miriam Oppenheimer. I'm here from the Online World of Learning, and you are welcome, everyone, to ask questions and raise your hand. Let's give a great big applause. You could put it in the, sorry, the reactions, or you can do, we call this a round of applause because it's round, right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much for your time and your expertise. It's very wonderful to hear what's happening all around the world.
Thank you.
I'd like to also take the time to introduce our next presenter. Thank you for everyone who managed to ask a question. That's wonderful. And we are happy to introduce Kurt Kohn, who is here from Germany. And he is, maybe people don't know the word emeritus. Emeritus means you have retired successfully. Professor Emeritus of English and Applied Linguistics from a university called Tübingen in Germany. And he's interested in global Englishes and English as a lingua franca, which means a language that different people can use. If they don't speak each other's language, they can use English as an interpretive language between them. He's interested in intercultural communicative competence development, which is my major, and pedagogical lingua franca immersion. He's interested in virtual exchange and telecollaboration, which we are doing today, and language teacher education, which we are also doing today. He's frequently published, including 2 articles in 2022, which is Global Englishes and the Pedagogical Challenge of Developing One's Own Voice. And another article, very interesting, called Focus on the Speaker Learner in English as a Global Language. I'm so happy to talk and hear from Professor Kurt Kohn from Germany. It's so nice of you to have graced us with your presence here today. Everybody's happy to see you. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You want me to also give you a 10-minute heads up?
Yes, please. Yes, please do. Thank you very much for your kind words, and in particular for the invitation to speak to you here. I would like to, my focus is on English today, but I would like to emphasize from the start that in terms of pedagogical approach, what I have to say applies to any target language. So in our projects, we actually dealt with German as a target language, or French and or Spanish. So it's, but we can maybe say a few more words on this later. Okay. Modern English language teaching pedagogy, and I would then argue modern language teaching, language pedagogy in general, is faced with 4 burning questions. What kind of competence is needed for global Englishes and English as a lingua franca communication? How can teachers help their students develop English as a lingua franca competence or communicative competence in their target language? What is the pedagogical role of standard English in this connection? And finally, what are the implications for teacher education? Now, when we look at this field of how teachers can help their students develop competence for global Englishes and English as a lingua franca communication, there are a few uncertainties and insecurities among researchers and among teachers. One of them concerns whether ELF communication can be successful despite deviations from standard English. That is, despite of all these things that happen in real communication. When you look at how English as a lingua franca and global English is described in the literature, and the next, you find that many researchers feel that ELF, English as a lingua franca, is something special. And the descriptions are fairly euphemistic. It's flexible, fluid, dynamic, creative, variable, heterogeneous, ad hoc, emergent, complex. At the same time, we all know that it can be pretty messy. Now, can Global Englishes and ELF communication, I mean, what we observe out there, can this serve as a model of orientation and guidance for pedagogy? Well, yes and no, question mark, exclamation mark. There is a strong focus these days on raising teachers' awareness of ELF communication. Awareness raising seems to be key for finding pedagogical solutions. In the following, you will see that my view on this is different. Regarding ELT's normative standard English orientation, and in general, when you look at other languages as well, I mean, there's always a normative orientation, standard language normative orientation. Is this a problem? Yes, no. With regard to English and English language teaching, there is this critique of native speakerism. Yet, when you look at what is going on in the field, I would say, all ELT critics and all people who favor awareness of ELF communication pedagogically have themselves a very high standard English proficiency. Either they are native speakers or they are, as a second language, speak their language on a very high level. Now, regarding Global Englishes and ELF awareness, what is the pedagogical value? I would argue it's fairly limited. On the positive side, we certainly have awareness that helps teachers understand what is possible out there and what is not possible, what is problematic or not, what is acceptable or not. But does this explain why Global Englishes and ELF success in communication is possible despite special training? All these people around who communicate around the world in English as a lingua franca, in Global Englishes, they don't have special training for communicating in ELF. Yet it is possible for them to be successful. Now, against this backdrop, I would argue that competence for Global Englishes and ELF communication is not special. Global Englishes communication itself is not special. Rather, it has its roots in speaker-learners' competence for everyday communication, in what we have acquired and practiced and developed since we started learning our first language. And I will try to go into these things in greater detail. Now, to understand unsuccessful or successful ELF communication, we need to go beyond Global Englishes and ELF awareness. We need to look at, we need to focus on what speaker learners as principal agents are doing in communication and learning. There are three issues to consider. First of all, the social constructivist my English nature of repertoire acquisition, or my language nature of language learning. Second, speaker learners' natural capability for communication. And the value of authentic and immersive Global Englishes and ELF exposure, or communicative language exposure in any other language. Let's first take a look at repertoire acquisition. From a social constructivist understanding, we acquire our English repertoire or repertoire in any other language by creating our own version of it. It's my English in the end. And this process is not idiosyncratic. It's not anything goes, my English. It is guided by who we are, that is where we come from, what we invest, what we are exposed to, and most importantly, by who we want to be in this second language. This is where speaker-learners' personal requirements of communicative and communal success come in as beacons of orientation and satisfaction. There are, in terms of requirements of success, there is, of course, understanding what is meant, being understood, being fluent, being accurate and appropriate, making creative use of one's resources, of one's many translingual resources, expressing group participation, ensuring cooperative and empathetic rapport with my communication partner, meeting external requirements like teaching objectives, like requirements which are imposed from by the communicative setting. And there are many, many others. All this is situation dependent, and it is the very essence of speaker-learner agency and emancipation. Now, in terms of language teaching, once we take this my English understanding of acquisition, including speaker-learners' requirements of communicative success, once we take this seriously, then we can move over to teaching for emancipation. And we see that we need to move from a strict standard language orientation to an open standard language orientation in language teaching. With regard to comprehension, in order to be successful here, we need wide communicative exposure to all kinds of varieties of English, or the same with regard to other languages. Now, with regard to production, this is where my English comes in. It is different. This is not, I mean, teachers should help learners develop their own voice as speakers. Usually this is based on some kind of standard English, the teacher's standard English. Germany, most of all of our language teachers are native speakers of German. So we haven't implemented a native target native speaker principle in our school system. The standard English normativity issue, which is raised in the literature regarding ELT and English as a lingua franca, when you look at it from a social constructivist my English perspective, well, then you see that normativity does not concern the standard English input as such. There's nothing wrong with a standard English input pedagogically. There might be something wrong with it because of where I come from, and for some cultural reasons, social reasons, I just don't like standard English. But this is an issue which needs to be clarified locally by the educational institutions. Otherwise, from a from the perspective of global communication, of English as a lingua franca communication, there's nothing wrong with standard English. Rather, in this connection, normativity concerns what students are allowed and enabled to do with their standard English input. That is, we need to move, as I said before, from strict ELT to open ELT. Now, let us take a look at speaker learners, the second issue, speaker learners' natural capability for communication. Take the example here, understanding and meaning more than what is explicitly said. In the phone is ringing, I'm in the bath. I think we all can supplement some kind of context in which this exchange makes sense and where we understand what A, the phone is ringing, what A wants to say, and what B, I am in the bath, intends to say. And this is way more than what is explicitly said here in these sentences. This is where utterance meaning comes in. And how do we arrive at understanding more than what is explicitly said? This is where creative and strategic processing comes in particular contextual inferencing in comprehension, but also contextual inferencing in production. When I speak, I need to model my partner. I have assumptions about what my partner knows, and then I verbalize my thoughts accordingly. But there is also cooperativity and empathy, both in attitude and in behavior. We accommodate our utterances to our partner. When we talk about our business things to our friends, then we talk about these things in a different way from when we talk about to our partners, or when we talk to children or to our parents. So accommodation, which is often mentioned as an outstanding strategic characteristic of English as a lingua franca, is very common in everyday communication. Well, then we have confidence and self-efficacy. Without confidence, without, well, believing in yourself and what you can achieve, you will not achieve as much as when you have confidence. Communication monitoring. While we talk, while we communicate with each other, we continuously monitor what is going on, whether I whether I meet my requirements of success, communicative and communal success, whether I understand my partner, whether it is sufficient, whether she has understood me, and so forth. Communicative monitoring is essential for achieving success. So these elements of speaker learners' natural capability for communication helps them cope with the complexity, also helps them cope with the complexities and challenges of global Englishes and ELF lingua franca communication. At the same time, it creates further complexities and challenges, right? So when we are trying to find the right expressions for what we want to say, and this in a foreign language, and we don't really succeed, and we depend on our partner's cooperativity, and so forth. There's more on this in this article here. Focus on the speaker learner in English as a global language agency and satisfaction. What kind of English now is appropriate in this context? Well, any my English, and it can only be my English, that fits local conditions and global purposes is appropriate. How can teachers now help their students develop competence for global Englishes and ELF communication? By supporting their students to develop their My English repertoire, by supporting their students to practice and enhance their communicative capability for global Englishes and ELF encounters. But how? How can we do? How can we achieve all this? And this is where this pedagogical lingua franca immersion approach comes in, which we have explored in several European research projects. It's a kind of Global English's ELF extension of communicative language teaching. And the idea is that students of different, English students of different lingua cultural backgrounds, that is from Germany, France, Spain, China, you name it, come together and communicate with each other using their My English repertoires as a pedagogical lingua franca. Now, how can you make this happen? This is where modern communication technologies come in. Intercultural virtual exchanges that can be implemented in the classroom. Of course, they have to be implemented in a blended learning environment where you have the intercultural virtual exchanges where the students meet and use their target languages as a pedagogical lingua franca. And you have preparation and follow-up sessions in class to accompany these things. Possible online settings, well, actually settings we used in our project were video conferencing, a virtual world were developed in the project, a Padlet, like a digital wall, and many other things. Focus in our project was on oral communication, that is conversational interactions in small groups or pairs of students, preferably outside class hours, preferably also from home, which generally increases the authenticity of the interaction and also makes the students more responsible in terms of and more autonomous. Accessible topics we used, like breakfast, waste avoidance, and interesting sport, and so forth. But what we noticed was, as a teacher, you cannot just provide all these things to your students and then say, over to you. No, there is a strong need for pedagogical mentoring. A few words on this a bit later. Here are a few platforms that are available out there that can be used where you could try to implement your own exchanges if you want to try this out. Benefits, well, authentic intercultural communication, negotiate requirements of community success. All these things need to be done. Noticing, addressing differences and divergences, strategic processing, accommodation, let it pass, all these things. Agency, cooperativity. Here, I would recommend this publication by Linda Heisen. Pedagogical mentoring, very briefly, helps students, of course, is needed for making it possible for them to handle pedagogical organization and technology. But this is the basic. But then it's also needed to make them embrace, to help them embrace a social constructivist My English attitude, which includes feeling responsible for one's own communication and learning. Help them to clarify requirements of success in relation to the situation and partners. in relation to given learning objectives in cooperation with their partners help them to make best use of their translingual resources beyond their My English repertoire to communicate successfully, to appreciate the value of cooperation and empathetic rapport, and to understand the value of what I would call augmented communication monitoring for successful communication and learning. And by this, I mean that, well, in everyday communication, our monitoring is usually on a certain level that is in line with principles of politeness, and also there are also cultural issues concerning this. In learning, the more you focus on communication monitoring, the more opportunities you create for your own learning. With regard to so teacher development for Global Englishes and Alphaware English language teaching requires more than raising teachers' and students' awareness. Teachers need to be able to acquire, to acknowledge and respect how their students acquire their English repertoires. They need to understand their students' natural communicative capability and how they activate it to be successful in ELF interactions. Helping students make best use of their capability for communication. This is one cornerstone. Another, respecting and supporting students' My English repertoire development and providing opportunities for virtual pedagogical lingua franca immersion. So these three pedagogical cornerstones for me should be at the very, very center of teacher education and continuous professional development for teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kohn. I hope that there are some questions. I know I don't have some, but I'll let other people go first. All right, I'll go. So I teach English as a second language, not English as a foreign language. And so there's a lot of fascinating lingua franca things happening. You know, I'll have someone from Kuwait and someone from Vietnam. English is the only possible way. My question is, do you recommend that people teach a lot of international gestures to, you know, this is walking and or going, you know, to help them with that? Is that something productive for them?
Well, this is certainly productive, and this is where I mean, these issues around today. I mean, translanguaging and making use of one's linguistic and non-linguistic resources. I mean, this is what we do in everyday life. I mean, if you could see me in a large picture, then you would see that I'm using my hands all over all the time, and of course gestures and the way you look, all these things are very important and can be helpful to support, and in particular when you are groping for words and you don't know how to, that you give a signal and invite your partner to help you, to make a suggestion, and something your partner maybe wouldn't do because of considerations of politeness. So it's very important to use all your resources in these communicative, pedagogical communicative activities.
Thanks so much. What other questions do we have?
I haven't question, but I want to say by Dr. Kohn, thank you for your speaking. Your speaking give me great inspiration to build communication with my students online. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I think since you mentioned online communication with students, I would like to give another detail on what I meant by pedagogical mentoring. I supervised an exchange between that was in our virtual world. That is where the students were moving around with their avatars, and they could speak and they could write. So they had a chat available and all these things. They were standing in front of learning station boards with visual and textual prompts to discuss certain issues. Simple things, breakfast, I think it was in that case. And this was a group of students from Spain and a group of students from Taiwan. And you can imagine that they had serious problems understanding each other simply because of pronunciation issues, right? But they wouldn't address this by themselves. They wouldn't ask, well, could you repeat this or something like this? Or they wouldn't use the chat to write what they wanted to say so that the other person could see what it was. So the communication largely failed, mainly because, not only because of the problems they had, there was a lot of room for solving, for addressing these problems, but they didn't make use of all these problems, of these facilities and these moves, and it was shyness, it was politeness, it was cultural things, many things, and this is where teachers then come in and need to prepare their students. This is why it needs to be a blended approach, to prepare their students in class, and also in follow-up debriefings to make them aware of what was going on, and then next time things will be better.
And that's fun because you can see the progress. There is a question online on the chat. Fillmore Jacob Murillo, do you want to ask your question?
Oh, yes. Hello, everyone. I would like to ask the question on establishing the relationship of the concept between World Englishes and English as a lingua franca.
Well, that's a very important question, actually, because what I feel there is quite some confusion out there in our discussions, and which has been even augmented by this more recent concept of global Englishes. As you know, global Englishes was introduced as a cover concept, a cover term for World Englishes and English as a lingua franca. And what is in danger of getting lost here is a fundamental distinction between World Englishes on the one hand and English as a lingua franca on the other. World Englishes, at least the way it was introduced by Brash Kashru, refers to varieties of English, World English varieties of English. That is why it makes sense to speak of Englishes, World Englishes, or global Englishes. English as a lingua franca is not a variety of English. English as a lingua franca, can you still hear me? Yeah, I lost one of because of all the shaking of my head. So we shouldn't be too abundant with our body gestures. English as a lingua franca is not a variety of English. It is communication. In English as a lingua franca communication, I make use of my English. You make use of your English. There's just no other possibility unless we are in an acting mode, right? Then, of course, I could try to speak like somebody else. But So English as a lingua franca is about communication, communicative interaction. World English is about varieties. And I think it's very important to make this clear. Speakers of some kind of world English, say from India, well, they use their English in English as a lingua franca communication encounters. Yeah. So, yeah. So thank you very much for this question. It helps to clarify something very important.
Yeah, and then if a couple is using the English as their lingua franca and they have a child, now their new language that the child will have developed, that's also worth studying. It's very
yes, and something interesting here with regard to my English or my language. I mean, there is this quotation from William Labov. I think it goes back to early 70s. No child the language of their parents. So we have the feeling, of course, my children, they speak my kind of German, but when you take a closer look, their German is different from mine. And I notice this all the time with regard to, in particular, with regard to vocabulary, where there are words I used them when I was a child or an adolescent. I don't use them anymore, but I know them. I have them as part of my rep. But my daughter, she doesn't have these words, or her child now. I mean, so this is developed. Speak our language, my English. I think this is a very, very important insight from this structivist perspective of how acquisition works. I mean, we acquire a lot of things. We can acquire a car and a book, and you know, the car and the book is out there, and we pay for it, and we get it, we acquire it, we have it. But acquiring a language, well, the term is kind of deceptive. It's different. We acquire language, and we can acquire a language by creating our own version of it. Something for teachers to understand, and then against this background, they will look at what their students are doing with their input. They will look at it with different eyes, maybe with more sympathetic eyes, and will help their students then, well, to develop a kind of language that is in line with their requirements of communicative and communal success, and which includes, of course, the requirements that are imposed by the curriculum. But all these things need to be negotiated, and to make learning a rewarding experience.
Manisha, do you want to go?
Yeah, I was just thinking when you said teachers need to learn, Dr. Cohen, so this funny thing came up in my mind. Would it be appropriate to summarize and say, please don't turn your students into Siri, or what do we have? Alexa, allow them to be humans. A mistake is not mistakes, but you know, the flexibility of carving out conversation and sharing message is far more important than being grammar police all the time.
Oh, yes, and I would add, there's even more involved than sharing meanings. I mean, when you look at the literature on English as a lingua franca pedagogy, there is this strong focus on intelligibility, and communicative success in those debates seems to be measured in terms of whether it's intelligible or not. But that is only one thing. And these requirements I mentioned, there's a lot more involved in terms of requirements of communicative and communal success than being understood and understanding the other person. And I think this is very important to take on board, and to take on board in the classroom. And in the end, I think we all want, with our native language, but also with our additional languages, we want to like what we see when we look in the mirror, right? And in traditional language teaching, but even in communicative classrooms, the focus is way too narrow. And only if you take this wider perspective, then you can link language acquisition or learning the language with intercultural communication, with identity development and these things.
I really like the I'm in the bath, the phone is ringing. That's a great example. I'm not sure if it translates to every culture or every age group, because certain people don't care if the phone is ringing, and other people don't care if they're in the bath. So
Yeah.
I love it as a specific example, but it might be a cultural leap for.
Yeah, well, I think there's even bigger, I think, are the differences regarding situations. I mean, I think you can easily think of a situation, construct a situation where the intended meanings are different from what we have in mind here now. I mean, it's the phone is ringing, so please pick up the phone, and then I'm in the bath, sorry, I can't, and these things. So yeah, this situational embedding, I think that is very important, and also very important in language learning and language teaching, again, to make students aware of the sort of situational embedding of communication. And these issues connected with understanding and meaning more what is explicit. I mean, often in the classroom, things go wrong because students who otherwise in their ordinary lives are perfectly able to look behind the surface of the words, but in the classroom, and when they look at instructions, task instructions, they do it word by word, and they don't look behind things. And this is something, something they need to be made aware of, and something that needs to be focused on more in language teaching.
Great. Very interesting, very interesting. If we had more time, I'd